Victoria.
Now, today marked the last day of the tourism Indaba, newly named Africa's Travel Indaba. The annual tourism trade show, which attracted more than 7,000 delegates, started on Tuesday at the Nkosi Albert Luthuli International Convention Center in Durban. Indaba is the industry's biggest gathering on the continent so far, showcases the widest variety of Southern Africa's best tourism products and attracts international buyers and media from across the world.
Indeed, President Jacob Gedleyihlekisa Zuma officially opened the event yesterday. Zuma urged South Africa to build on the achievements of 2016, with the number of international visitors to the country increased by 13% compared to 2015. Several issues about tourism were discussed during the Indaba. So, without further ado, we are joined by somebody who was there live, in actual fact, and enjoyed some of the entertainment that was there at
Your
Indaba.
heart is so reeling. You were there, yeah, you were close, but not close enough.
I was 5'2". Nonetheless, he's a lecturer at Tshwane University of Technology. Mr. Unathi Henama joins us here live in studio. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Thank you.
I think maybe Cindy wants to ask the most important question, because normally the reason why I travel is because of my wife. So maybe you want to ask.
The reason why you travel is also about that the affordability issue. I guess it was more about, we've always been on the short left campaign for South Africans, or Africans indeed, to explore our continent and to find those picturesque and golden places that you can go to. Did we find that this year maybe might have been different because of the economic situation?
There's actually a big push by the SA Tourism and the National Department to ensure that more black people travel. But to say blacks don't travel is the biggest lie. We do travel, we do follow those patterns of going Easters and all of that. But we must basically ensure that each and every destination must have 101 things to do in that town. For example, you go to Rustenburg, there must be 101 things to do to Rustenburg. That information must be filtered to each and every member of the population, so that if I'm visiting, I'm told what to do, so that we can increase our expenditure.
It's very, very difficult, I can tell you now, but because we go, when we travel, it's about going back home in the majority. Wherever you come from, so people actually identify with those places. But we don't find ourselves when we're at home to be comfortable. And I've noticed that with myself, that, you do want to have a shower, you do want to have a bath. So how do we encourage South Africans then to take advantage of that? And by the way, I don't know if you noticed, but there was a specific interest into the Karoo this time around, and what's happening there. Property booming in the Karoo because of that particular area being attractive to tourists.
One of the biggest the articulation is that blacks don't have money, and we have a multi-billion-dollar stock fair economy, and we should actually be speaking to stock fairs to say, save money, go to Cape Town, take a package, go to Cape Town, or you can go to the home of black tourism, which is Durban. And then over years, you start to institutionalize, because the most important thing, you must institutionalize the habit of holidays. And the most important thing, which you would not articulate, is the fact that when you go on holiday, it increases your level of happiness. And happiness is actually improves the quality of life. Which is actually good for you.
So you don't have to stand on the sideline as you watch our white counterparts with their canoes on the roof of their big vehicles going on holiday. Caravans. Well, we just settle for a braai. So you're saying that is a myth. It's slowly changing.
It's a myth, because we have this economy, but we have to ensure that we exploit the stock fair economy very well. And most importantly, also, it can become a very good opportunity to ensure that blacks become product owners. You take the same stock fair economy and they become owners, they open their own establishments, and also try to change the character of the industry, which remains primarily white.
Yeah, because, sorry. There are wide opportunities in terms of what you can offer in tourism. It can be hospitality, restaurants, even infrastructure, conferences, but the B&Bs, especially when it comes in townships, I don't know how successful those have been, and how do you replicate maybe the I suppose, sterling example that we might see in a township like Soweto. How then do you take that to a remote village that may not have a historical appeal, to tourists?
Unfortunately, this thing called township tourism only exists in Johannesburg and in Cape Town, you know. But other than that, the high crime rate becomes a very, very big problem for the growth of township tourism. I mean, you see what happened last week when they met at Mandla, and I mean, earlier in January they met at the manager of Sakumzi. So this has a ripple effect on the sector, and but it's a reflection of the lives we live. You know, we as South Africans, we live very frustrated lives. You know, we go to our houses and create these fortresses. In actual words, we are prisoners. And this also has an impact on the tourism sector. So we must ensure that there's law and order in this country, you know, so that we can live better lives. And then, trust me, if we live better lives, if our municipalities are working, then it's just a knock-on effect for tourism. So it just benefits tourism, you know.
Give me, as a lecturer, I know you love these things, so give me 3 things that you think you've picked up from the Indaba that you would like to tell our viewers.
All right, Indaba, South Africans must travel more. Number 2, we need more air access to this country. And the last one, we need to be visa-friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
is it getting rid of the borders, or is that what you're talking about?
Not necessarily getting rid of the borders, but ensuring that the administration is much more better. I think the biggest injustice is that crisis called Bait Bridge. You know, the level of service at Bait Bridge is appalling. And Bait Bridge is the busiest land-based border post in the southern hemisphere. So we must be getting the same level of service as Tambo.
That's quite interesting.
It's an unfreedom, eh?
You know what? I love talking to this man because he's so articulate, straight to the point.
I just want to go on holiday.
You know, you can go on holiday, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, earlier on we were talking about the timeshare industry that consumers feel, you know, they're trapped into a contract, and then using that, or maybe juxtaposing it with the stokvel industry to industrialize the industry, and also maybe to transform, where people can start looking at investing as a syndicate in those spaces.
Yeah, so I mean, how do you take advantage of that, Unathi? How do you take advantage of, you said the stokvels, I know that they can do something, but timeshares have been there from time immemorial. So how do we modernize them so that, like my sister says, make them available?
Create our own.
Yeah, I think we create our own, but I think with the inquiry right now on the timeshare industry, I think that's important to ensure that, you know, we create the right enabling environment. But I mean, if you look at Cape Town, the growth in tourism has actually been driven by basically Uber and also Airbnb. Now you find that in the CBD, a lot of people are buying housing stock there and then renting this out.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, there are still some issues about how you manage Airbnb, but it has been able to increase property prices.
That's amazing. Anyway, we can talk a lot about this, and you know, we can talk about Table Mountain. What else do you know? Table Mountain?
Table Mountain. No, we also know. Oh, you were talking about the Republic of Cape Town, because we've had our own experience. But that's the, sorry, I was going to say about being culturally sensitive, because you almost get you shell-shocked when you go to other places, and the first thing they'll ask you, so where are you from? And when you say Johannesburg, they're like, well, it makes sense, because you're so obnoxious, or whatever. You know, you're not like the other blacks. So as South Africans, I think that the touring as well and being culturally sensitive helps us not only to widen your own perspective of what's going on around, but also as a way of social cohesion.
I mean, look at Robben Island. Robben Island has got a great Muslim resistance history that we're not using very well. And I mean, if you look at the Middle East, those guys have got billions. And I mean, if we can ensure that we attract them and then package Muslim tourism around Robben Island, I promise you.
That's quite amazing. So let's name them. I wanted to name some of the places, because I started with Table Mountain.
I've been to Hot as Hell.
Hot as Hell, yes.
Kuruman.
Yeah, it's Kuruman, yeah.
Yeah.
And Kimberley's the big
hole.
The big hole. You can talk about God's Window. That's
Mpumalanga Kloof, yes.
And that's in Mpumalanga.
Limpopo.
What's the Limpopo?
I think Limpopo is the Garden of Eden. Which
the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
Is it Limpopo? I don't know, because Limpopo,
somewhere.
I normally think about lightning.
And in zigzag, it doesn't just go straight.
I'm not going to get into trouble, Cindy. You're not going to put me in trouble. That's Unathi Henama, who was joining us there, who's the chief